Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to the Artist Next Level podcast. I'm super happy, super excited to be here with you because today we have here in the show live joining me all the way from Costa Rica, Alicia Puig. Alicia is the curator and co-founder of the gallery PxP Contemporary. She is the director of business operations for Create magazine. She's also an independent arts journalist, and she is also a co-author of the book, The Creative Business Handbook. Follow your passions and be your own boss. And in this episode, we're going to talk about all the things that she's doing. We're going to talk about the book, what it's all about, and how it can help you. So don't go anywhere. It's going to be a great chat.
Resources, inspiring interviews, business practices, and practical advice to take your art career to the next level. Join Sergio Gomez in today's Artist Next Level and get ready to take control of your career.
Okay, so here we got our little intro music. Let me remove my tab and go back here so I can see you. Right. Well, Alicia, welcome to the show today. How are you today?
Well, that's a good question to start with. I'm doing very well. Thank you so much, Sergio, for having me. I am thrilled to be here.
Well, super excited. I don't think I have ever had a guest that was living in Costa Rica. And from what I heard, Costa Rica is one of the most beautiful countries out in the world. So welcome. I'm sure you're having a fabulous time down there.
I am. I was just mentioning before we started recording, I've lived here now for 5 years. It is so lovely, and I cannot imagine moving back now.
Okay, Alicia, so if I were to go to Costa Rica like tomorrow, what would be one thing I should not miss when I visit?
Oh, that's an impossible question. It depends on what you love to do, because, of course, one of the things that people come here most are the beaches. There are unrivaled beaches, but I would say if you're into hiking, we have some of the most incredible waterfalls.
Not a hiking person.
Well, but not that for you, but for other people, that should be a must do. We also have a beautiful part of the country called the Cloud Forest, Monteverde, and I actually really enjoy that. It is not beachy. It is mostly cold and sometimes rainy, but I think it's incredibly different. And I think that's one thing that people don't understand about Costa Rica is that you can get so many different climates and different types of landscapes here. So yes, you can come for the beaches, but there are mountains, there are volcanoes, which are very cool to see if that's not something you're familiar with. There's forests, there's, like I said, just so much to see. So it really depends, but those are some things that I would mention right off the bat.
And what is one like dish or food that you would really want me to try?
Well, this is perfect for you. You're a big breakfast person. So
yes,
here is gallo pinto. So you would come here and get their famous rice and beans dish for breakfast. That's
gallo pinto?
See.
Oh, wow. Well, that's amazing. All right. Well, now I got to go find a Costa Rican restaurant, see if they have a gallo pinto that I can have for breakfast. Well, Alicia, we're super happy to have you here in the show today, that is the podcast, because you are a person who has been in the art world for quite a while. You have quite a bit of a wide experience, journalism, directing a gallery, working with a magazine, and now also co-authoring a book for creatives on the business practices, which if you know me, those guys who you know me, that's also my kind of like my sweet spot. I love to talk about business. I love to talk about with other creatives and others in the art industry about business and business practices that are relevant today, right? Because I think when it comes to business practices, it is important to talk about the things that matter today. I mean, there are the principles, right, that we all can follow, but how do those principles translate to right now, May 2023, for example, right? How the world is right now. And those are the things that I love to chat and to kind of like dive in deeper. And I think this book is going to bring some great insight for our friends. So we're going to, dissect a little bit of what's inside the book, what should we expect, and so on. But before we chat about the book, we want to get to know you, Alicia, a little bit better. Now, we know what to do in Costa Rica, but let's talk a little bit about your career trajectory. So tell us a little bit about how you end up doing what you do now.
Yeah. So I guess I'll start from the beginning. I think like many creatives, I was very artsy and into crafts growing up. I always tell the story that in the Girl Scouts, I got every single art badge possible. I
Good.
got the making fire one, and then those I got the painting and the sculpting and all of those badges instead. From then on, I guess one of the first real moments that I took art seriously was in high school. We spoke recently about our formative experiences with our high school art teachers, and I had one as well. So my teacher, Mr. H, he really guided me through the process of not only learning how to fall in love with art and the basics of how to draw and how to really put together compositions and how to start figuring out color and painting, those technical things. Also, he walked me through how to actually apply to art school. And so that was a big step, because before that, I don't know how I would have really even started to put together a formal application. I needed images of my work, and I remember staying after school, and he would teach me to like stand on top of a chair so I could get the right angle to
that is cool.
to get the right pictures and crop them down through early iterations of Photoshop to then have a formal portfolio that I could send off to school. And from that, I did end up being accepted to a few programs. I think, like you though, it wasn't advertising for me, but it was graphic design. So I actually went to a graphic design program first, thinking that would be my, the way to make money job.
I think, right.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily think that I could just be a studio artist. But I did that for a year, and that was enough. I realized that it was an interesting program, and I did enjoy it in many ways, but I knew that the calling was back towards art. So I transferred schools. I ended up at a small state school in Pennsylvania, Kutztown University, which is in the middle of the Amish country.
Oh, wow.
You can actually see horse and buggies going by. And so the beautiful thing about that was a much smaller school. So, but the art program was actually very well respected, renowned. And it is still. So from there, I really dove into more traditional art classes, printmaking, painting, oil painting, lithography, figure drawing, which I'd never really been able to do before. And I loved that. But at the same time, I am very much a nerd. I love to do research and read and write. And so I also fell in love with my art history classes at the same time. And there was like this combination between those two that I started wanting to learn about the business of art. So I worked in the campus gallery, and that's actually how I ended up meeting my business partner, because she was the director of the off-campus gallery, and I was the director of the on-campus gallery at the same time. So we were constantly in touch with like, what's going on with you over there? What's going on with yours? And we realized, we were the only two that were managing at that level. So, like I said, we were just constantly in touch and commiserating with each other, learning how we could be better. And I enjoyed that job so much that eventually I realized, wait, I'm enjoying this more than going to my studio classes. Wait a minute, that tells me something. So it's not that I didn't like my art classes. I just loved that aspect more. I was helping my peers often put together their very first solo exhibition on campus. And so I was helping them curate their space, helping them organize their opening reception. And even to the point where I got one of my peers collected by the university. So I was even helping to place artworks in important collections for them. And that was just so thrilling for me. And then on my breaks, so during the winter break, during the summer break, I would go back and try and get internships and other jobs outside of the university setting to continue to learn. I worked for Contemporary Gallery in Delaware, and I ended up getting internships. Like I got one in Washington, D.C., working for the National Museum of Natural History. So one of the Smithsonian museums, which is amazing. And again, I just kind of fell even deeper in love with working on the administrative side. There was a turning point when I decided I knew I wanted to go and get further education. I wasn't ready to jump into the professional world of working just quite yet. And I come from a family where both my parents earned PhDs. They're both in science, though. Science disciplines are very different. But I knew that I wanted to continue my education. I know I wanted to go for a master's. So And I was still kind of torn between the two. So I went to visit schools for MFA programs, and I went to visit schools for our history programs. And the ones that I went to for MFA programs, I just didn't see any artists making artwork like me. And looking back now, it's crazy how much that had an effect on me. It really shouldn't have had that much. You know, you want to go into these communities and feel like you belong in a sense, but I just felt like it was so different that I would never belong. And that really was, looking back, was more of a mindset thing over anything. And so it's sad that I left my art largely because of that. But at the same time, the happy note is that I knew then that I wanted to go fully into art history. And so I found my program at Temple University in Philadelphia. I moved there, had a great experience. It was very tough because I was the only one coming from an art background, a fine art background. All of the other people were coming from a full art history research academic background. So I had to learn very quickly, you know, all of the things that they had spent 4 years figuring out. My writing had to improve by a lot. I had to learn how to do presentations, sometimes as long as 45 minutes an hour on very academic subjects. So very much trial by fire. But it was one of those instances where, you know, I'm sure you've heard the phrase, if you're not if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. That was not me. I was the least experienced one in the room. So I just soaked up everything like a sponge, and it was an incredibly formative experience. Really learning from all of those wonderful people in one program. Then, or I guess at the same time though, I still never lost that desire to want to learn about the business. So even in between all of my classes, I was still taking on internships, taking on jobs, working in galleries. And luckily I did that because when I graduated 2 years later, I walked out with a job 2 weeks later at a contemporary gallery in Philadelphia. Yeah, it was not an easy time to get a job, an easy job to get a full-time job with a salary and benefits in the arts, which
especially a gallery. Yeah, exactly.
Especially a gallery. I had interned at that gallery previously, and also made the point to stay in contact. And I had sent my resume over recently telling her, hey, I'm the director. Hey, I'm about to graduate. I'm looking for work. If you know anything. Originally she had said, no, I just have a full staff right now. But as luck would have it, I went on vacation for a week or two after my graduation. And during that time, someone put in their notice at the gallery. And so I said, okay.
You were already late. Yes, exactly.
You were top of mind, and I have a spot potentially for you. So I worked at that gallery for 2.5 years. It was a small staff of at most 5 people. Which is hard. Now, you know all the things of working in a gallery. And so you ended up having to do everything. But I learned a lot in a short amount of time. And then from there, I jumped over. I lived in Chicago actually for a year.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't.
Yes. That's where my husband was based when we met. We were long distance for about a year, and then it just naturally worked out that my time at the gallery was ending and we were going to be more serious. So I moved to Chicago to be with him. I worked at Medicine Hand and Auctioneers there for a year. So I learned about the auction market, which was very different than what I'd known before working in galleries, but also very interesting to learn about. And after that, he always knew he wanted to spend at least some time in Amsterdam. So we moved across the pond in Amsterdam for a year. What a crazy experience. We had no contacts. We didn't know anybody. We did not have jobs lined up. We only had
really? You just wanted to go?
we went. We had an Airbnb lined up for a month. That's it. And we bought one-way tickets and we went. But I was able to find jobs within 2 weeks. I worked at a contemporary gallery there as well. And what was interesting about that was that the way that the owner was running her gallery was so different from what I'd experienced at galleries in Philadelphia, New York, and the States in general. She had a pop-up, one actually I ended up working for 2 galleries. One had a pop-up model, so she was online before almost all galleries are now online, and was only really doing art fairs and then sometimes partnering with hotels or other kind of high-end spaces to do shows. And then the other guy that I worked for She was showing the work of her husband and of one other artist. So it was very focused, but they did incredibly well because they knew their audience and they knew how to reach them. And she was another early adopter of online marketing and having an e-commerce website where people could buy their paintings just potentially without even having gone to the gallery. So I helped completely redesign their website, build that up. And so those were like very, very great experiences that got my feet wet in terms of how to build a business online and how to start marketing online and actually selling art online. That was like 2017-ish. Then we knew that we wanted to move back to his home country of Costa Rica. So that happened in 2018, I believe. And at that time, I did not have any work lined up. I didn't know what I was going to do next. And so out of necessity, I started working with my business partner at her magazine. But only a short period later, she finally kind of gave me that last little nudge I needed. Like, you're ready to start your own business. You've worked in galleries for years now. You know how it is to do this, to sell art.
Right.
And so we launched in 2019. And I've been running the gallery ever since.
So that was right before the pandemic, right? Or you launched during the pandemic?
Yes. No, it was before. So
right,
that's the other thing. You mentioned when we spoke that you were an early adopter of, putting all of the work online and making sure that you were ready to start selling online. And we were also very fortunate to have done that. Not because we knew anything was coming, really more out of necessity, because and having a space here, at least at the moment, doesn't feel like the right step. Maybe in the future it can be, but also because I was moving around so much over the past several years, I didn't think like, where's a spot that I know that I would be for long enough.
But I think we understood the potential. Right?
Absolutely.
And we knew it was there, and that's why we put the effort. With your gallery and with my gallery, before the pandemic was even in the sentence, we understood that there was something there that's where things were moving fast.
Yes, exactly. So that's kind of going back to my experience in Amsterdam. Those two galleries, they were doing things so differently because one of the reasons of that was them really prioritizing being visible online. And that started to change my perspective of when I had known a gallery as, the traditional white box cube that you expect people to go into a space and they have the wine and cheese opening and all of that. But they were not doing any of that, and they were still both doing incredibly well in their own ways. So again, after that, it was all systems ahead with moving forward with launching the gallery, and that's been my main focus for the past 4 years now. Actually, we're going to be celebrating our 4th anniversary, May 15th, coming up. So very excited. I have another little show coming up.
And that is PxP Contemporary.
Yes, PxP Contemporary. So it comes from our last names, Puig and Popova, which traditionally would be Puig Popova Gallery, but as you can imagine, we didn't think one would be able to pronounce it, two would be able to spell it. So we figured we'd make it much easier for people. PxP and Contemporary, because we only show contemporary living artists.
Very cool. And so you are now 4 years old as a gallery, and heading, very soon you'll be heading into 5 years, which is great. And I think any business, 5 years is quite a mark. Like, you have tested the business by then and know what it can do. It's great. That's awesome. What do you feel like, as you look at, the work that you did all prior to and has led you to kind of, like you said, realizing that I actually have the tools that I need to start my own thing. That realization, that maybe Ekaterina helped you to realize that you had already those things to make that jump. Was that a scary decision or an exciting one or a combination of things when you said, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to jump in the fence and go for it. Tell me about that feeling.
What a good question. So, like I said, I have to go back and really give my business partner her flowers, because she gave me that final push that I needed. I was not sure that I was ready for it before that. And I think for a long time also, it goes back to being a woman in that world. not necessarily seeing people like me as I was working in the industry. I was fortunate that I did work for a lot of really dynamic women gallerists, but also being a person of color, that was something that I didn't necessarily see people that looked like me in that regard. So it was a long time where I didn't think that opening a gallery would be for me, but seeing those two gallerists in Amsterdam really started to plant the seed in my head that a gallery doesn't have to mean just one thing. I can make the business how I want to make it, and it can be fully on my terms. So that was a big game changer. I also worked for that. I mentioned the gallery in Delaware, and they've now been in business for over 40 years. So it was wonderful that I had my very first long-term experience with them, because I mean, they're just incredible. To have a business in this industry for 40 years.
That is crazy. It's not the norm.
Good word.
It's not the norm.
It's not the norm. And I mean, they're so professional. And the fact that they even took the chance on me, I still don't understand, but I'm so grateful that they did. And they show, really big names, the Wyatt family. You could walk in and see Mary Cassatt. Like, you didn't really see these incredible works of art at their gallery that is in this tiny, small state of Delaware. You would never expect, but it's a beautiful space. Anyway, the point is, there were always these little signs that I was seeing that, wait, maybe you can do this. Maybe you can. And so I guess the feeling was finally taking that leap, having a little bit of faith and betting on myself. Like, okay, this is what I have to do. Also, we talked about in my previous answer, I've been moving around so much, and I was finally at a place where I knew I was going to be here for at least a while. Now I don't think I want to leave, but I needed to find work, and it was going to be difficult. If anyone has dealt with trying to live in another country and find work and all the visas and all the paperwork and all of that, it's hard. So it's much easier if you can figure out a way to make your own money online.
So I love that. I love that. Yeah, no, I love that. And I think this is really valuable, for friends who are listening too, because the world has changed and continues to change all the time. And to be able to create a gallery or any type of business that kind of fits who you are, what you want out of life, super important. And something that I always tell artists, every gallery is different. Sometimes as artists, we put galleries in one box, like, all galleries work this way. And I would say there are no rules. When you start a gallery, you make the rules, right? You decide if you're going to review artists or not review artists. You can say if you're going to work online or not online, or you're going to have one show or 20 shows. Every gallery is totally different. And therefore, the job of the artist of making sure that we do the research when we are looking for gallery representation, find out how each gallery works, because you cannot assume that because a gallery works one way, that every other gallery will work the same. Every gallery is so unique, so individual. Even the way the business works inside, and I'm sure you can attest to that with all your experience working with so many galleries, how, everyone does things different. Yeah, there's something that may be in common, but every gallery is different. And I think you are a great example of that for our friends listening, to understand the value of getting to know the gallery, getting to know their inner works a little bit, so that they can have better success working with a gallery, understanding that, PxP Contemporary is a different gallery from 33 Contemporary, right? And we build our galleries according to how we want to run, what makes sense for each one of us. And that is, I think, a good reminder. And, thank you for bringing that up too, because we often forget.
Yeah.
So I want to talk to you, Alicia, about something that is super exciting. Although the gallery, we could continue talking about the art business practices for the galleries for the whole entire rest of the episode. But there's something that is right now also brewing, and it's been in the pot for a while, and already it's got this beautiful smell, right? Which is this book, the Creative Business Handbook. And I love the title. There we go. There we see it, the Creative Business Handbook. Follow your passions and be your own boss. So, and I think the title, ties in exactly what we've been talking about. As you, as the epitome of this, as the person who embodies this title of creating your path, working at it, being, persistent at it. When a door closes, looking for another one, and finding your way, and then finding this opportunity to find what's your creative call and your creative vision, and be your own boss, right? Make your own rules. So tell me about this book. What's the premise of the book? And your involvement with Ekaterina, how you guys, wrote the book.
Yes, I am so excited to dive into all of this. So it does require me going back a little bit, because it actually starts from the first book that we wrote together that we self-published, called The Complete Smartest Guide. And that one was the handbook for artists who want to sell their own work, whether that's with a gallery or on their own, and wanted to promote themselves or showing up online and dealing with all the emotional aspects of being an artist as well, because we know there are many. And from that, that's been now on the market for 3 years, and it's done quite well, and we're really happy with the feedback that we've gotten on it. But from that, we learned that we started to hear that artists, they will kind of want that next step. Now that they are comfortable showing up, that they are selling their work, they're getting the success that they want, and they've reached a certain level in their art career, they want to take that next step and build a business. So they also want to start a magazine, or have a podcast, or own their own gallery, or a similar boutique, or just something that is that next level. And so we decided, okay, let's do it again. Let's write that second roadmap of what it takes now to build that passion for something else. So it's usually rooted in community, to take that next step to building it and seeing it grow. So it is meant to be, it's been kind of linearly from that process, from the very beginning of what do we even mean by creative business? What are the types of creative businesses that we are envisioning that people might start after reading our book? It goes into then picking things like names and putting together your website. Yes, all the brass tacks, we want to include practical information. But like the first book, it also goes into how do you even step into the role of CEO in terms of your mindset? How do you handle obstacles? How do you deal with those rough days? And then also, of course, things like money, planning out your financials, do that with your taxes, and then kind of ending, well, not really ending, because an entrepreneurial journey is a lifetime one, but ending with the next phases of your business. How do you scale? How do you grow? And what else can your business do once you focused on your first few core products? So that is the premise of the book. How did we do it? A lot of work. It's a process that's been going on since 2021. So it takes multiple years when you're working with a publisher for a book to come out, which I don't think we do a little bit of, but not quite a full extent. But the crazy part is that the actual writing process is only 3 months of that. We only had 3 months to write this, and it was completely different from our first book, because the first book we had kind of pulled together from blog posts that we'd written previously, and we expanded them to make sure that we were including even more information for the book. But this one, we had to start from scratch. So it was pretty intense that we really wrote this thing in 3 months, and we still had so many other things going on. I mean, our business days did not stop. We were fortunate to get an advance to help with the writing, but it was not enough to cover both of our salaries for that time. So it was a lot of, actually what we talked about in our conversation, in between moments, you cut out, or you carve out as much time as you can find, even if it's just a couple minutes here and there to continue with the outlining, or to bang out a paragraph somewhere, or to come up with some examples of something. But we really had to make it work. And also, similarly to your own writing process, we like to switch off, where we knew that we were writing 6 chapters and then a bunch of sections within those chapters. So what we would do is one of us would take one of the chapters, and then we would write during the week, and then at the end we would send it over to the other one, and then the other one would work on, like, add in things and continue to build on it, and then just keep doing that. So a lot of switching back and forth, switching back and forth.
So are you writing it as 2 voices, or are you writing it as a 1 voice?
It's 1 voice. It's 1 voice. So it's not that you'll see there are points where you'll see this is Kat's perspective on this, or this is Alicia's perspective on this. But for the most part, we feel totally comfortable going in there and just kind of adding in, because our voices tend to be pretty similar at this point for working on the magazine together. So
exactly. And that is wonderful, because then you have the this accumulative experience from both of you coming out to the reader, and then just focusing on the content. Now, something that the book title has the idea of, it's a handbook, right? Handbook. And whenever I read the word handbook, it makes me think that I got to do some work, right? It's not a book that you just read and, okay, I read it and I put it in my library, great, check mark, I read the book. But handbook means like it's expected of me to do some work. So tell me a little bit about, what you expect, the reader to work on, and how, maybe even perhaps one little example of an exercise or something that our readers expect to find.
Ooh, good question. So yes, just like our first book, it is meant to be interactive. we don't necessarily want you to just read it and move on. We would love for you to really have it become involved in your process. And so at the end of every chapter, or actually I think at the end of most sections, we have action steps. They're broken down very simply, very easily. So it's nothing that's going to be overwhelming at one time. You just move forward with each section of actions as you're going through the book. Can I think of a good example of an activity? Oh gosh, there are just so many. Okay. I just flipped over a section and I got to one.
All right, let's go for it.
I'm in the chapter about the CEO mindset and how to, get over imposter syndrome and really step into the role.
Oh, I know that one already.
Action steps that are, reflect on your relationship with money in your personal life. How does talking about it and thinking about it make you feel? If your answer is overwhelmed or confused, how will you handle money with your business so you don't feel that way? There's another question that journal on, what kind of leader do you want to be? And another question, what would it feel like to achieve financial success in your life and business? So, a lot of them are yes, there's some practical ones, but there's also ones that are more about journaling and just reflecting. So there's a good mix that really gets you thinking.
Yeah. And those questions are wonderful because, the first one, your relationship with money, that all starts with your relationship in your family, right? How you grew up and how your family saw money, right? That you end up inheriting some of those perspectives. Is when you think of money, you think of abundance, or you think of scarcity, you feel like you're always running out of it, or you're freely giving, So I think those are really powerful questions, that or the reader can put a pause as they go through the book, work out, right, as part of the handbook part, work out those ideas, or at least get them started, so that you can go back to it and continue in this process. Because building a career as an artist in the world today is very different how it was 20 years ago. I remember when I was in art school many years ago, early 90s, the idea that was like, you went to your studio, you made the art, a gallery will come and discover you, and they'll do all the press, they'll do everything for you, right? Social media was not even in the picture. The internet was just starting. So, now in the world in which we live in today, it's a complex world. It requires a skill set. It requires a framework. It requires also the ability to adapt as the world changes. And I feel like all these questions, even just from that little taste, these questions will apply no matter if you read the book in 2023 or in 2026, because those will help you understand your reality today as well and adapt to those. And tell me also, as you think about this book particularly, what is one of the biggest obstacles or struggles that you feel artists have in the world today, and how the book can help them to alleviate that pain point?
Ooh, I like this question a lot. I'm going to go with one that I think is very universal, just, the imposter syndrome, the feeling like you have to be at a certain point to even start a business. You asked me one question, which was, what that feeling, how did I identify when I knew I was ready? And I told you for a long time, I didn't think that I was. I didn't know if I was going to be. I didn't imagine that I would be a gallery owner. And a lot of things just happened to fall in place. But ultimately that, 10% was about me just deciding, okay, I have to do this. I have to try and see what happens. So I love, of course, that our book has all the practical steps. It walks you through it from A to B as much, or A to Z as much as possible, although we know that it's going to take a winding path on occasion. But I love that we have a full section dedicated to the mindset and how you can really handle these creative challenges that are going to come up. So yeah, I think that that's a section that I'm really proud of and that I hope people really enjoy and take a lot out of.
Awesome. Well, I cannot wait to get my hands on the book, which is going to be really awesome. So tell your friends how they can get hands on their book, and also if there is a like a Kindle version of it, everything that's available from the book.
Absolutely. So thank you for having me. The Creative Business Handbook, it comes out officially on May 23rd. We are so excited about it and so excited for everyone to get their copies. It is available everywhere books are sold. You can find it, of course, on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, but you can also go to bookshop.org, so you can order it through your local bookstores or your indie bookstores, and it will be available as a paperback, also as a Kindle version and an audiobook. Now, that is a recent development, so you'll be able to listen to it along in your studio. And
that's great.
I know that a lot of artists prefer that option, so we're thrilled that we're going to be able to offer that as well.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of audio, besides the book, you also have the Create podcast, which also I would love to tell our friends a little bit about that too. Tell us a bit, about the Create podcast, where it is and how they can find it.
Yeah, the Create podcast, you can find it on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts. We also have a blog post of each episode, so you can find it at createmagazine.com. And we've been having so much fun with it. It's been several years of it. There are hundreds of episodes now, and it's hosted by myself and my business partner, Alicia Puig, also an artist and the editor of Creative Magazine. We have a lot of conversations just like this. With creatives, with artists, with gallery owners, with curators, with writers, and all those different kinds of people from all walks of life in the art world, just to get to know them and their stories. And we always try to include some business advice from everyone, so you'll get tons of tips and wisdom from them. So yeah, please do give us a listen, try us out.
Yeah, awesome. So check it out, my friends. The Create podcast. Make sure that you also subscribe to it and check it out. And I'm so happy to have been a guest to that as well. So super excited for the work that you guys both are doing. And well, as we kind of wrap it up, Alicia, I want to say, it's very inspiring to know the things that you and Ekaterina are working on, how this beautiful friendship that started back in college, and working with two different galleries in two different parts of campus, have ended up kind of being this wonderful collaboration over the years as each one went on your path and then coming back full circle and now being collaborating and growing a business together. But not only stopping there, but also reaching out to the larger art community with this book as well, The Creative Business, and helping artists, and all creatives to succeed in the world, to find their strength, to also, not to listen to those imposter voices that tell you, you don't have enough, you're not ready, right? You're too far away. Today we have so many tools, we have so many resources online and offline, and people that you can reach to as an artist to get help. And that is one of the wonderful things. And this book, will also make that possible for artists to move forward. So I want to congratulate you, Alicia, on this. I think it's a wonderful project. I wish you the best of success, not only for the book, but also for the gallery, PxP Contemporary, and for the Create podcast, and for all the things that you guys are doing, because when one of us wins, we all win. And that is something that you guys subscribe to as well. Now, I asked you about the book, I asked you about the podcast, but tell us also our friends who may want to take a look at PxP Contemporary. Where can they find the gallery, and maybe what's happening right now at the gallery, or what you're excited for?
Yes, thank you for allowing me that opportunity to speak about it. So PxP Contemporary is online at www.pxpcontemporary.com. and on all social media platforms at PxP Contemporary. We're pretty easy to find. We are almost ready to celebrate our 4th year in business. So on May 15th, we'll officially be celebrating our anniversary. Cannot believe it's been 4 years already. It feels like it's flown by. But it's funny, I was thinking the other day, it's really just the beginning. Yes, it's a milestone and it feels like a long time. But when you think about galleries like yours that have been in business for almost 20 years, it feels like almost a drop in the bucket. So I'm just so excited for what the next 4 and then what the next 10 and 15 and beyond years will look like. So we are very much at the beginning, and I'm just so excited to see it continue to grow. I will be working on a very small but curated and lovely anniversary show coming up. So I'll be announcing that very soon. But beyond that, we still have the work of at least 20 to 30 artists on the site at any given time. So there's always lots to see, even if there isn't an exhibition. Oh, but I should mention, we are curating an in-person exhibition in Philadelphia in July. So in Philadelphia, stay tuned. There's going to be a lot of details coming forward with that. And if you're in any nearby area, we'd love to have you at the opening. So just follow along, and we'll be sharing more details about how you can participate. And yeah, I'll leave you with those 2 things, because otherwise I could talk about the gallery for hours. So that's top of mind.
Yeah, maybe we have to schedule another episode just to talk about gallery, right? The gallery business and working with artists and all that stuff. But I think it's another great topic that our friends love to listen to. So thank you, Alicia. Thank you for joining us. Thank you so much. Send our big also congratulations, big hug to Ekaterina as well. Wishing you both great success. Thank you to our friends who listen today or watch this through YouTube. Thank you for joining us. Do us a big favor. Both Alicia and I will be so delighted if you also share this episode with your friends. If you tag us on that as well, feel free to reach out to us. Our Instagrams are also here listed on the screen, and you will be able to find them also in the description of the podcast. So thank you guys, and I will see you at the next level.
Check out our website at www.theartistnextlevel.com, where you will find our podcast library, learn about our upcoming webinars, find resources relevant to your career, and much more. Thanks for listening to today's podcast, and we'll see you at the next level.